She handed me a check. "Thanks for the help. We're done." I replied, "Understood." Then I showed the investors I secured how she fired me. Now her company's funding is frozen, and she's frantically calling me and begging to return. I'm 32, and I just systematically dismantled my former best friend's company after she tried to screw me over. It cost me, but it cost her a hell of a lot more. It's 2 in the morning. There's nothing but the hum of the fridge and this blinking cursor. It's quiet. Too quiet. For the last 2 years, my life has been chaos. A symphony of pitch decks, late-night coding, and the constant buzzing energy of building something out of thin air. Now, silence, and the faint, satisfying scent of scorched earth. Her name is Jennifer. She's 31, and we weren't just business partners. We were practically family. We met in some university elective, bonded over niche sci-fi. Inseparable. So when she came to me with the idea for Aperture, a tech startup to revolutionize data visualization, I didn't hesitate. I dropped everything, poured in my savings, my time, my entire being. I was the CTO, the guy behind the curtain making the magic happen. She was the CEO, the face, the charismatic visionary, and it worked for a while. The betrayal wasn't a sudden knife in the back. It was more like a slow, creeping poison. It started with little things. My name being left off a press release, or her taking credit in a big meeting for an algorithm I'd spent months bleeding over. And when I'd bring it up, she'd laugh it off. "Oh, you know how it is, James," she'd say with that dazzling smile. "We're a team. It's all us." She was a master of the corporate we when it suited her, and a staunch I when success was being celebrated. The real beginning of the end, though, was a guy named Robert. He was slick, old money. Oozed the kind of confidence that comes from never facing a real consequence in your life. Jennifer met him at some networking gala and was instantly smitten. And suddenly, Robert was everywhere. In our office, on our calls, offering his insights. His insights were universally terrible, just rehashed business bro platitudes from a 2012 TED Talk. But Jennifer, she hung on his every word. "You're just jealous, James," she'd say when I pushed back, her voice getting this hard, dismissive edge. "You can't stand that I have something that's mine." That stung, as if I hadn't sacrificed just as much as she had. The final straw came down about 6 months ago. We were on the cusp of it all. Our Series A funding, a huge deal, $5 million. The lead investors were a VC firm I brought to the table, an old contact. They were impressed by the tech, the product that I built. Our founders' agreement was solid, drawn up by a real lawyer. It had a standard but crucial key person clause, naming both me and her. It meant if one of us was out, the investors could walk. A safeguard for both of us. The night before the final signing, Jennifer texts me. "Dinner tonight? My treat. Let's celebrate what we've built." I should have known. Her tone was too bright, too cheerful. But I went. We were at some ridiculously expensive restaurant, the kind with tiny portions and foam on everything. She raises her glass. "To Aperture," she says, her eyes shining, "and to new beginnings." And then she slides a folder across the table, right next to the breadsticks. "It's not a menu, it's a termination agreement." "Like I said," she says, her voice dropping, losing all its warmth. "New beginnings. Robert's coming on as Chief Strategy Officer. We're taking Aperture to the next level, and, well, your role is being made redundant." I just stared at her. The noise of the restaurant, it all just faded away. Redundant. The man who wrote every single line of code. She pushes a check across the table. My initial seed investment, plus a pathetic 10% bonus. "Thanks for all your help getting us here," she says. The words are clearly rehearsed. "Sign the papers, James. It's a clean break. We'll announce the new structure to the investors tomorrow morning, right before we sign. It's better for everyone." The sheer audacity. It's better for everyone. Robert had convinced her she didn't need the nerd in the background anymore. She could have the glory and all the equity for herself. I didn't shout. I didn't flip the table, as much as every nerve in my body was screaming at me to do it. Years of logic, of code, they taught me that emotional outbursts are inefficient. They just waste energy. I looked at the check. I looked at the woman who was my best friend just hours ago. There was no sadness in her eyes, just cold, hard ambition. "Understood," I said. My voice was steady. Eerily steady. I picked up the check, folded it neatly, placed it in my jacket pocket, and I left the termination agreement unsigned, right next to her untouched plate of seared scallops. I walked out of that restaurant and onto the street. The city felt alien. The shock was a physical thing, a cold weight in my chest, but underneath it something else was already starting to form. Not rage, logic, a plan. She thought she could just write a check and erase me. She thought I was just the quiet coder. She forgot one crucial thing. I built the house she was living in, and I knew exactly where all the load-bearing walls were. Update 1. It's been 3 weeks. And that first week was hell. I'm not going to pretend I was some cold, calculating machine from the get-go. I was a wreck. It felt like a death. I drank too much whiskey and just stared at my monitor, the sense of betrayal, a physical ache in my bones. But grief is a process, and my process involves channeling raw emotion into meticulous, cold-hearted strategy. By not signing her insulting agreement, I kept my shares, and more importantly, I didn't sign away my rights. That beautiful founder's agreement was still in play. She had her check, but I had the leverage. First call was to my lawyer, not some bulldog litigator. A quiet, older guy, methodical. He read the key person clause and just said, "She can't do this. The investors made their offer based on the two of you. Removing you is a material change. It could void their entire offer. She's breached her fiduciary duty to the company and to you." He sent a polite, carefully worded letter. It didn't threaten a lawsuit. It just inquired about the breach of the agreement, about my unilateral and invalid termination. And it noted our concern that this information was being kept from the investors. It was the legal equivalent of a polite cough in a library, but a cough that signals the person has tuberculosis. Second, I did what she always thought I was terrible at. I networked. I had coffee, lunches. I never trashed Jennifer. I was better than that. I was just sad, confused. Yeah, it's a tough situation, I'd say. Jennifer's taking the company in a new direction. I'm not really sure what the vision is anymore. I just hope she knows what she's doing with the tech. I was calm. I was reasonable. It is amazing how much more damage you can do with a concerned tone than an angry one. The tech community is small. Word travels fast. The story started to shift. It wasn't James is out anymore. It was Jennifer forced James out. What's going on at Aperture? But the masterstroke, that involved the investors. I waited. I waited until the morning they were supposed to sign. I knew Jennifer's plan was to tell them I'd decided to step away. To control the narrative, I beat her to it. I emailed Mary, the lead investor. The subject line was simple. Urgent question, Aperture. The email itself was short. Mary, I was informed last night that Jennifer is terminating my position as CTO and co-founder, effective immediately. This was a surprise to me. As per the key person clause in our founding documents, I wanted to ensure you were aware of this material change to the leadership and technical team before the final signing today. I can no longer stand behind the technical roadmap you were presented with. Regards, James. I didn't have to be emotional. The facts were emotional enough. I had just told an investor that the CEO was actively deceiving them on the day they were supposed to wire $5 million. The fallout was immediate. My lawyer got a call from their lawyer within the hour. The signing was off. The deal was frozen, pending a full review. And yesterday, I got the first frantic call from Jennifer. Her voice was high-pitched. Gone was the cool CEO persona. "James, what did you do?" Mary called me. "The funding is on ice. They're talking about breach of terms." I let the silence hang for a moment. "I just made sure they had all the relevant information," I said calmly. "It's called transparency, Jennifer. You should try it sometime." "This is our company. You're sabotaging us," she shrieked. "According to the check you gave me, we're done," I replied, my voice flat. "And according to the founder's agreement, you can't just fire me. You put the entire company at risk, Jennifer, not me." The line went dead. The hum of my fridge suddenly sounded like a roaring engine. The first domino had fallen. Update 2. It's been 2 months, and things did not go according to my perfect logical plan. Life, it turns out, is a lot messier than code. Jennifer is a fighter. I'll give her that. And a manipulator of the highest order. After Mary's firm officially pulled out, she didn't crawl back. She spun a new story. A story where I was the bitter co-founder, a garage coder scared of growth, who tried to sabotage the deal when she wanted to professionalize. In this new narrative, Robert was the visionary, and I was the anchor. It was infuriatingly brilliant. She started looking for new money. The reputable VCs wouldn't touch her. The story was out. So she went bottom feeding. She found a special situations fund. It's a polite term for vulture capitalists who prey on distressed companies. They gave her a bridge loan, $500,000. It sounds like a lot, but the terms were brutal. An insane interest rate and an option to basically take over the company for pennies if she defaulted. Robert, the strategy genius, thought this was a great deal. It was a blow. I had this vision of a swift, clean victory. Instead, I was watching her limp forward, bleeding, but still alive. The legal fight had also stalled. Her lawyers were masters of delay, just burying my guy in paperwork. And the legal fees were piling up. I was burning through my savings. There were nights I'd lie awake, just staring at the ceiling, with this crushing weight of failure pressing down on me. Maybe she was right. Maybe I was just a bitter coder. I'd see pictures of her and Robert online, at some minor tech conference, looking like a power couple, projecting success even as I knew they were drowning. That's when I had to make a choice. Fold or double down. I doubled down, but not with PR, not with narrative, with truth, with code. Aperture's product was my baby. I knew every line of code, every dependency, every breaking point. I had built a robust internal diagnostic system. It tracked everything: server loads, error rates, query complexity. Jennifer knew it existed, but she had no idea how powerful it was. I didn't have access anymore. But I didn't need it. I just needed to know how the system thought. I started seeing bug reports on developer forums. Small things at first: lag spikes, API timeouts. The new head of engineering, they hired John. He was good, but he was just patching a system he didn't fundamentally understand. He was plugging holes in a dam that I had designed. So I gave the dam a little push. I set up a new freelance account, a pseudonym, and I signed up for Aperture's enterprise free trial. Then I started feeding it the most complex, resource-hungry, system-breaking but technically valid data I could find. Publicly available stuff, but notoriously difficult to process. It was like pouring gravel into a finely tuned engine. The system didn't crash. That would be too obvious. It just got bad, slow, unreliable, frustrating. And for enterprise clients paying top dollar for performance, frustrating is a death sentence. The first big sign of trouble was a LinkedIn post. One of their largest clients, a company I had personally onboarded, complaining about unacceptable performance degradation and a complete lack of competent technical support. I knew then, they'd lost the brain. John was just one man trying to manage a crisis he couldn't possibly comprehend. And that $500 they'd raised? It was being incinerated, just keeping the servers from completely melting down. The call came last Tuesday. Jennifer again, no shrieking this time. Her voice was tight, strained. "James, stop it." "Stop what?" I asked, looking at the performance logs of my own little freelance project. "I've been busy." "Don't play dumb. The servers are on fire. John says the query loads are insane. He says it's like someone is intentionally trying to break the system." "Sounds like you have a serious technical problem," I said. "You should have the CTO look into it." "Oh wait." There was a long pause. I could hear Robert muttering in the background. "He's admitting it. Threaten him." "You did this," she said, her voice dropping to a whisper. "You're destroying what we built." "Let's be clear, Jennifer," I said, the cold logic finally boiling over into something hot. "I'm not doing anything illegal. I'm just a customer using your product. If it can't handle the workload, that's not my problem. You fired the one person who could fix this. You did this to yourself." I hung up. It wasn't a triumphant feeling. It was grim. I was deliberately kicking the legs out from under 2 years of my own life's work. It was painful. It was ugly. But it was necessary. They were bleeding out, and I was about to make sure there were no more bailouts. Final update. It's over. Mostly. The final act didn't play out in a courtroom. It played out over a series of desperate text messages and a single, pathetic phone call. After my stress testing, Aperture's technical problems hit critical mass. Their biggest remaining client officially pulled their contract, citing the performance issues. And that triggered a default clause in their loan from the Vulture fund. The vultures were circling. And that's when Robert, the visionary, vanished. He saw the writing on the wall, cleared out his desk, sent a one-line email to Jennifer, and blocked her number. He was a parasite, and the host was dying. The call came on a Sunday morning. It was Jennifer, and she was crying. Not the crocodile tears of a manipulator. The raw, ugly sobs of someone who has truly and completely lost. "James, please," she begged. "You have to help me." She told me everything. Robert gone. The Vulture fund calling in their loan, about to take over the whole company. John, the last senior engineer, had quit 2 days ago. It was just her. The money was gone. She was going to be sued personally for the loan. She was ruined. I just listened. I didn't say I told you so. The raw human misery on the other end of the line was jarring. "What do you want, Jennifer?" I asked. My voice was just tired. "I want you to come back," she pleaded. "We can fix it, like old times. I'll give you whatever you want. 80% of the company, 90. It's yours. Just save it." There it was, the offer I might have dreamed of 2 months ago, but hearing it now, it felt like being offered the captaincy of the Titanic after it hit the iceberg. The company was a smoking crater. The brand was toxic. "There's nothing to save, Jennifer," I said. It was the honest truth. "No," she screamed. "Don't say that. You can fix it. You can fix anything." "I can't fix this," I said, my voice flat. "I can't fix the trust. I can't fix the debt. You made your choices. You listened to Robert. You pushed me out. This is the consequence." We talked for another hour. A messy, circular conversation of blame and regret. In the end, I made her an offer. My lawyer had been working on it. It was the only way out for her, and the only way forward for me. A controlled dissolution of the company. The Vulture Fund was the primary creditor. They wanted the IP, the code. It was the only asset left. They could sue her into oblivion, or they could take a deal. The deal was this: a newly formed shell company would purchase Aperture's IP out of receivership for a fraction of its value. Just enough to give the Vulture Fund a small return and convince them not to pursue Jennifer personally. She agreed. She had no choice. What she didn't know was who owned the shell company. It was me. I took a small personal loan, and I called Mary. I explained everything. I told her the tech was sound, the management had been a disaster. I asked her if her firm would be interested in backing a new venture. With proven tech, and a founder who'd learned a very, very hard lesson. She was intrigued. They agreed to fund my acquisition of the IP. So Jennifer walked away with nothing. Nothing but personal debt and a ruined reputation. The Vulture Fund got a fraction of their money back. And I got my code back, my intellectual property, the very soul of the company, free and clear, ready for a new beginning. It cost me my savings, it cost me my friend, it cost me 2 years of my life. I have scars from this, but I'm not the one being hounded by creditors. I'm not the one who betrayed a friend for a man who abandoned her at the first sign of trouble. A few minutes ago, an email notification popped up. It was from Mary. Subject: Next steps. Body: James, the wire for the IP acquisition has cleared. Let's schedule a meeting for next week to discuss the roadmap for Phoenix. I renamed the project. Aperture is dead. Long live Phoenix. I replied, understood. The hum of the fridge is still there, but it doesn't sound like silence anymore. It sounds like a beginning.